So I had a really wonderful conversation with a good friend of mine last night, and we were talking about how magic and spirituality and people who get into sort of the occult side of life, they can become obsessed with it. They can get too deep into it, and it can have very serious negative repercussions. And then we started talking about how this can happen with anything. This can happen with psychedelics, this can happen with yoga, this can happen with alcohol, this can happen with just about anything. You know, people will find something and say, oh, this is it. This makes me feel better. And then they'll become obsessed about it. Even meditation. Some people get obsessed about meditation, which sort of defeats the whole purpose of meditation, because meditation, by definition, is time taken to step outside of that rat race of trying to achieve what I desire, right? And just simply be. That's what meditation is. But people can even get caught up in that, addicted to that, the rat race of pursuing enlightenment, you know, and become obsessed with it. And in my life, that's happened in many phases. You know, when I first discovered alcohol as a teenager, it really helped me connect with people, and I didn't have a whole lot of friends at that time. And so suddenly I was very social, and I was like, wow, this stuff's amazing. I'm gonna do this all the time. It eventually became a problem. Same thing with veganism and raw food. Felt really good in the beginning. By the end, I was dogmatic, and my body was breaking down, and I was just confused, an emotional wreck, because I didn't know what to do. And so he and I were talking about, like, how do you inoculate yourself against these things? How do you, whatever it is you pursue in life, how do you pursue it in a way that minimizes the potential that you could get too far into it, you know? And I suggested that it has more to do with the intention of the individual than the activity or the substance. And the three things we came up with were humility, humor, and contribution. So the first thing is being humble and knowing that whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's veganism or psychedelics or a new fitness regimen, that I honestly know about this much. You know, I know very little. And in any pursuit for healing, it's really nice to make being a student the priority. That's how I would sort of define humility from the perspective of personal development. Is always putting yourself as a student first, even when you get to the point where you're proficient enough in these things that you can teach others, still being a student, still being humble enough to recognize that you don't actually know everything that's going on. The second thing was humility. The first thing was humility. The second thing was humor. And humor is a really beneficial one, because you got to be able to laugh at yourself. You take things too seriously, it's not going to work out, period. Any endeavor you pursue, whether it's a profession or a meditation practice or a new dietary program, instead of beating yourself up when you don't do things perfectly or when your silly patterns come up, you got to laugh at them. You got to laugh at your patterns. You got to laugh at just the absurdity of being human. Because it is absurd. This whole thing is super absurd. I don't know who said it, but there's a great quotation that I love to repeat to myself sometimes. That goes like this. Man suffers because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. If anyone knows where that quote came from, or if I botched it or whatever, you know, put it down below, let me know. I'm not sure who said that. It'd be great to have that information. But humor, you know, humor and humility together will help make sure that whatever the pursuit is not, it doesn't become about arrogance. It doesn't become about power. It doesn't become about asserting yourself over others. And the last thing is contribution. Not only do we not want to assert ourselves to others, not only do we want to have humility with others and humor with others, but to contribute to others. You know, if I'm going to spend an hour a day meditating, that's great. The first question is, what is this doing for my life? There's a lot of things it's doing for my life. That's awesome. It's reducing my anxiety. It's increasing my awareness. It's healing my body. But what's it doing for other people? What's it doing for others? What is, an hour of yoga doing for others? What is my perfect nutrition program doing for others? What is my spiritual practice and my experience with psychedelics or magic? What are those things doing for others? I think a lot of people, they're not using this to contribute at all. Psychedelics are a great example of this. Terence McKenna used to talk about how the role of a psychonaut was like a fisherman, to go out into the ocean and try to fish for ideas, to try to fish for insight. And he talked about how sometimes there were small fish, small ideas, small realizations, small epiphanies that really weren't that valuable, but they were easy to get into the boat and bring back to our normal conscious realm. And then when you're on psychedelics, there are the big fish, the thing that you can barely even hold on to when you're on 5 grams of dried mushrooms. And then when you try to bring it back, it's just like, what the fuck? I've even been in some of those states where I tried to record myself. I had some crazy epiphany and I tried to record the audio. And I go back and there are just this jumble of words that somehow created an image of meaning, somehow contained meaning when I was in that space that was profound. And then afterwards, I was like, I don't know what the hell this means. I don't know. That was a fish. That was too big. And so he talked about how what you really want to do as a psychonaut is to go into the psychedelic ocean and bring in fish that are bigger than the small fish, the medium fish, the ones that you can get in the boat and bring back and give it to the world. Because that's what the point is. That's what the point is. It's to give it to the world, to help the world. Humanity is at a dire moment in our evolution. And if whatever to me, the whole idea of a personal practice, the whole idea of becoming the greatest version of myself, it's a revolution. It's a revolution of individuals becoming the greatest versions of themselves and working together to heal our communities and heal our ecosystems and heal our society. And if my daily practices, if my experiences with spirituality and magic and health and fitness and all these things, personal development, organization, whatever, if that's not being used to contribute to the world, it's just being used for my own, benefit, then that's that arrogance, that's that ego, that's that power mentality. And that power mentality is the most destructive thing that's happening on the earth today. We need to humble ourselves, we need to laugh at ourselves, and we need to always come back to contribution. That's what I say. And I feel like if I do those 3 things, I can't fully prevent myself from falling into those pit holes, the inevitable pit holes of being human. I have an ego, I have patterns. I can spend many, many more lifetimes working on this shit and I'll still have stuff to work on. So stuff's gonna come up. But I feel if I do those 3 things, then I can sort of inoculate myself against that. Be humble, humor myself, see the humor in things, and try to contribute. Try to have a bigger intention with all these practices. I hope you enjoyed this video. My intention with these videos, this is my contribution. This is my effort to take what I'm experiencing, what I am learning, and give it to the world. And for a long time I put it off because I thought I had to reach some sort of proficient level of understanding before I could share. But YouTube presents this great opportunity that I can just be a student on camera and I can just show it and say, hey, look, I don't know, I'm figuring this thing out one day at a time. I'll probably say something totally different a year from now, but maybe you'll get some benefit from it right now. I hope you do. I'm documenting my process of expansion and spending plenty of time in beautiful spaces. Look at this creek. Look at that. That's beautiful. All right, much love.